I, Dave Moore here. Just wanted to make a video today that I actually had a request on. The video is called Self-Defense on a Budget. Basically, I was asked to explain some cheaper guns, some cheaper alternatives, and the guy said that he only has a single shot shotgun. So I have done a video on the single shot shotgun on Instagram before. I'm not going to get into using it as much, but I'm going to give you some options on some cheap firearms and some uses that they can portray in your daily life. I was pretty fortunate. My dad's a cop, so I've always had guns handed down to me, so I haven't had to purchase a whole hell of a lot of firearms, but not everybody has guns handed down to them. Some people might only have a single barrel shotgun. So basically, I'm going to talk about some cheap alternatives and some uses and some things to think about in each category. And for this video, I actually have some notes because I want to make sure that I can be as thorough as I can and be on point with everything. So let me put down this old Savage Arms and get started. Basically, if you're looking for a cheap alternative, a handgun, if you will. So in the pistol category, there's really a few things, a few guns that are pretty affordable. Number one, Glock, which is my favorite. Any Glock really. MSRP is what, about $550. So as far as guns go, it's pretty cheap. The Smith & Wesson M&P is in the same price range, about $550. Now, if you don't have $550 to spend, there are a few other options, such as like Car Arms, and Kel-Tec. Now, I don't have experience with Car Arms or Kel-Tec, but I know that they are affordable guns. I know that they are under, what, like 400 or so, around there, 400, 250 to 400, and I heard that they're pretty good guns. I carry a Glock because it is, in fact, an awesome gun, and I just like Glock. But like I said, there are other options. So Car, Kel-Tec, I'm not sure of the exact prices, but I know that they are cheaper than Glocks. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the quality is garbage. Just because they're cheap doesn't mean anything. Glocks are technically cheap, but they're awesome. So you've got Glock M&Ps that are really at the top of my list. Below that would be Car Arms or Kel-Tec. Now there's also the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, Smith & Wesson Shield, which I believe is in the same price range as Kel-Tecs and Car Arms. And Diamondbacks are awesome guns, but since they got sued, they're really not making them, so they're hard to find. So it's something to kind of think about. Depending on your price range, if you're looking for 250 to 350, Car Arms and Kel-Tec is probably going to be your best bet, I believe. And that's really all I have on handguns. Like I said, I have experience with Glock, and that's really kind of all I use. So I'm just kind of spouting off what I've read online about, affordable guns. Now, there is one that a lot of you don't think about, or you think about, but you laugh at it. Now, I'm not saying this as a carry gun or anything, but the High Point. Everybody knows High Points are cheap pieces of shit, right? Well, here's the application that I have for a High Point. I don't have a High Point, but this is kind of in my head. And actually, I heard this from Student of the Gun, from those guys. I watched one of their videos and got this idea. So the credit of this goes to Paul Markle at Student of the Gun. He basically said, High Points are cheap pieces of shit, so don't carry it. But if you have a bug out bag, if you have a car bag, if you have a go bag, and you want to have a spare gun in it, well, I'm not going to put this Glock in it. This is my carry gun, and even if I had one like this, like a spare, if that bag got stolen, I would be really, really sad and really angry because it was a great gun and it got stolen. So you have a car bag, you have a go bag, etc. If you buy a High Point for 200 bucks and you put it in that bag and your car gets broken into, it's stolen, well, who really gives a fuck? Yeah, you're out some money, but it's a cheap gun, you really weren't attached to it, it's a backup. So if for any reason you weren't carrying your gun, you had to grab that bag and go, you had at least something. The gun that you have is better than the gun that you don't have. Obviously, regardless of what brand caliber, etc. So that's kind of the application I have for one of those. I would probably more lean towards like a Kel-Tec or a Car Arms as a cheap bag gun, but depends on your budget. So think about that. Another thing is the caliber. You want to stay away from. Let me check my notes and just make sure I cover everything. You want to stay away from like 380, 40 cal, 45, the Magnum rounds, revolver rounds. You want to stay away from those, and the reason is they're expensive. 40 cal is more expensive than 9mm. 380 is more expensive than 40 cal, and 45 is more expensive than all of it. Then when you get into those specialized Magnum rounds or the revolver loads, they just get really pricey. So you're going to break the bank on ammo. So what you want to do is you want to get a handgun that's chambered in 9mm. And the reason is, number one, 9mm is cheap. You can get it for about 10 bucks a box, give or take, depending on where you're buying it from. But let's just say 10 to 12 bucks a box, whereas 380 is 20 bucks a box and 40 cal is 15 to 20 bucks a box. So if you're on a budget, 9mm is the way to go. If you ever need ammo, usually 9mm can be found at most stores. Whereas 40 cal, like at the Walmart, 40 cal they have it sometimes. Sometimes they don't, but 9mm is usually always in stock. So as a cost-effective ammo, 9mm is the way to go. And like I said, it's a lot cheaper than most other rounds, and you can find it anywhere. 22, not for self-defense. That's all you have, great, but try to get a 9mm. But 22s can kill people, and they do every year. So handguns, calibers, different brands. Another thing about handguns is you can go and get police trade-ins. A lot of times police will trade in their Glocks for a new gun. For instance, my dad's department switched from a Glock 22 to a Smith & Wesson 45 for some fucking reason. But that's what they did, so they traded in all their old guns. So they were trading in Gen 3 and Gen 4 Glocks. And a lot of times you can get those trade-ins for $350 to $400. So why buy a Kel-Tec or a Car Arms for that price when you can get a Glock for that price? So kind of search around your gun shops and see if they do police trade-ins, because that's really one of your best bets. And just because it's used doesn't mean anything. Now you can also buy guns used and get them cheaper, but I would say police trade-ins are probably the best bet, because police barely shoot. Their gun just stays in the holster. So you might get some holster wear, but that gun has barely been shot. I can almost guarantee that. Moving on to talk about some shotguns. Obviously, you have your single barrel shotgun. Now, I got this from my dad. It's technically still his. This was from back in the day, from the 60s. It's a Savage Arms, a Stevens Savage. Stevens model 94 Series M Savage Arms, 12 gauge single shot shotgun. Now, you can use this very well, not as fast as a semi-auto or a pump, but if you train with it, you can break this action down, get that shell out, put a new one in, and be ready to go very quickly. I don't train with it, but you can do that, and if you want a video on maybe using that a little more effectively, maybe I can think of some ideas and make a video. But obviously those are cheap. You can get those for 90 bucks, 100 bucks, 50 bucks. You just gotta find them. Now, with the single barrel shotgun, you have options also. Gunadapters.com makes adapters for them. Basically, you can take a 12 gauge, whatever gauge your gun is, you can take this adapter and it fits into the 12 gauge, 20 gauge, whatever barrel, and then you can have multiple calibers, 22, 44 mag, 40 cal, 9mm, single shot still, but if you have a box of 9mm and a box of 12 gauge shells and you're going out in the woods, or you want to protect your house, you can shoot the 12 gauge at a critter, and then you can put that adapter in and shoot a 9mm at a human or another critter or whatever. But it gives you multiple calibers for that gun. Now, gun adapters also, I believe it's gunadapters.com, don't quote me. As you know, I'm always wrong. But they also make a kit, the Pathfinder kit. The Pathfinder kit is, I believe, 4-inch adapters, and it comes with multiple ones. You can choose like 4 or 5 of them, and it's about $100-something. So really that gives you multiple guns in one, in theory. So that's a cheap alternative for shotgun and pistol calibers, depending on what you wanted. Now, the gun that I have, and the most common shotgun, is the Mossberg 500. The Mossberg 500 can be purchased for about $250 or so, depending on which model you get. But a 12 gauge is a 12 gauge. A 12 gauge is a 12 gauge ultimately, as long as it goes boom, it's doing its job. So the Mossberg 500 is probably one of the cheapest alternatives, and they make millions of those a year, and I fucking love them. The other one is the Mossberg Maverick 88. Mossberg Maverick 88 is designed the same as the Mossberg 500, but I believe it's just a more cost-effective design. It loads the same, it shoots the same, but there's some internals that they changed to make it more cost-effective. And all the Mossberg 500 stocks and adapters and all that will fit and work for the Maverick 88. So as far as a pump shotgun, Maverick 88 or Mossberg 500 is probably your best bet. Moving on, about shotgun ammo now. 12 gauge makes a bigger boom, but a 20 gauge is more common. If you are on a cost-effective or cost savings budget, or just a budget if you will, the 20 gauge is cheaper. So if you buy 20 gauge, you're going to save money on ammo, and the 20 gauge will drop a motherfucker no problem. But you got to understand, shotguns are not what the movies portray them as. You still got to train, you still got to be accurate, and you still got to make good hits. But 20 gauge is cheaper, and 20 gauge is more common. How many times have you went to Walmart, you went to look at the shotgun shelves, and all you saw was 20 gauge? Whole shelf's 20 gauge, and 12 gauge is sold out. Well, if you need ammo on the run, or you need it because you're going bugging out somewhere, or whatever, you need to go buy, stockpile some ammo, 20 gauge is going to be more common. Just go to Walmart and look. I guarantee you the 12 gauge is sold out, or just a few boxes left, and 20 gauge is in fucking bazillions there. So 20 gauge is the cheaper and more abundant shotgun gauge. 410, I wouldn't really deal with that, but you can get the adapters from 12 or 20 gauge to 410, so there's that. Moving on now, ARs. There's a lot of cheap brands out there. For instance, my rifle, this is a cheap brand. This is a Stag Arms Model 2. Now, it originally comes with no sights. It comes with just a flat top rail, the normal mil-spec handguard, the normal A2 bird cage, normal grip. It's just, you know, when you look at a mil-spec rifle, the old school Vietnam era, but M4, that's how it looks. And that's fine. It works just fine. Matter of fact, a lot of times, just that standard design makes it better with the handguard and all that. It's just, there's nothing that can really get screwed up. So Stag Arms Model 2 is retailing for about $850. As far as ARs go, that's pretty cheap. So $850, under $1,000. So the cheaper spectrum, but Stag Arms is Colt. Stag Arms is also either LMT or LMC. They're made in the same factory. So Stag Arms and Colt are pretty much the same rifle. Just Stag Arms is a cheaper variant, and it doesn't have that Colt horse on it. Now, the other one is DPMS by Panther Arms. Now, a lot of people bitch and moan about these. I've never had one, but I had a buddy who did have one. As long as it's mil-spec, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, I say that, and it might say mil-spec, but there might be a problem. But as long as the tolerances are good, and you got a hold of a good one, I guess, it's an affordable rifle. They're a little cheaper than the Stag Arms, I believe. But I would go with Stag Arms over DPMS just because I have experience with it. But DPMS is a cheaper variant. Now, if you wanted to go really cheap, like 500 or below, there is a machine company. It's actually Moore Machine Company. My last name, Moore. I believe they're either in North or South Carolina. But I've read some pretty bad reviews on them, that they're pretty garbage. The finish is bad. But if you really wanted one, and you wanted one for cheap, maybe just for plinking around or whatever, the Moore Arms, or Moore Machine Co. is really cheap, and you can even switch out the bolt carrier and all that and get a decent rifle. But I have no experience with it, so if you buy one, it's on you. It's not on me. So I would recommend Stag Arms. Caliber for the AR. You want your AR to be chambered in 5.56. Reason being is 5.56 gives you the ability to shoot .223. Now, .223 ammo is more common, and I shoot .223 because it's cheaper and more abundant. You can buy it by the bulk a lot better. So you want it chambered. You want that stamp on the barrel or on the receiver to be 5.56 millimeter. Reason being is 5.56 is a or a crimped case. It produces a higher pressure. Now, if it is chambered to take those higher pressures, and the barrel lead is a little bit shorter, which gives it a tighter fit in that chamber. So it's just a tighter fit and higher pressure, military grade ammo. Now, shooting .223 out of a rifle that's designed for higher pressures is fine, because .223 is about half the pressure of 5.56, I believe. And if you have a rifle that's chambered in .223 and you shoot 5.56 out of it, it can really fuck up your barrel and ruin the rifle. So most rifles are chambered in 5.56 millimeter, but just verify that it is 5.56 and it is not stamped .223, because you do not want one that's chambered just for .223 unless you are for sure only going to shoot .223 out of it. If all you have and all that's left in the world is .223, you're fine, but you do not have the option to shoot 5.56. Now, I know guys who've shot 5.56 out of a .223 chambered rifle, and they say there's no problem. But I've read some stories and I've read some research on the pressures caused by 5.56, and I am not going to switch them around like that. I will shoot .223 out of a 5.56, but not 5.56 out of a .223. And like I said, most rifles are 5.56. Just verify that AR is mil spec, and then you have no problem. Let's see here. Now, moving down to something I don't have experience with as far as training goes, but just rifles, bolt guns. The only affordable bolt gun that I can really think of is the Savage Axis. The Savage Arms Axis is about $150 to $250 to $300, depending on the model. Now, I have shot a Savage Axis in .223, and it's fun. I mean, it's a bolt gun. You can get a cheap scope, and it can be a good varmint rifle, or if you had to, you can shoot a motherfucker in the face with it. But a handgun or an AR or a shotgun is going to be your better option. But for sake of covering the whole topic, the only bolt gun that I can think of that's cost effective is the Savage Axis, or the Savage Arms variants of it. They have other models, but the Axis is usually pretty cheap. You can buy it at Dick's if you like Dick's. That's what she said. And they usually have sales on them. You can get them pretty cheap. So the Savage Arms Axis and .223 bolt gun. .223, like I said, is more common. It's cheaper to purchase the ammo. 308 is more effective, but 308 is a lot more expensive. So as far as cost effectiveness goes, you're going to want that .223, that 5.56. Just verify that that bolt gun is chambered for 5.56. That way you can shoot .223 out of it, or just understand that if it is only .223, only buy .223. So there's that also. Moving into ammo now. Ammo eventually becomes one of the more expensive things that you're buying. If you think about it, you got the gun, that's great, but you got to feed it, right? So do you want to go and buy filet mignon at the steakhouse, or do you want to go and get some chopped sirloin from the grocery store? I prefer the chopped sirloin. For a while, all I shot was aluminum cased Blazer. I shoot 40 cal, so Blazer aluminum I was getting for a relatively cheap price, about 14 to 16 bucks a box. So aluminum is awesome. I mean, no problems. You can't save it to reload, so you don't even need to worry about that. But it's really cheap and it works fine. Blazer is a nice hot load, that's what she said, and it's just awesome ammo. I love it. Never ever had a problem with it. Other cheap ammo, Tol ammo, or Tolamo, or whatever the fuck it's pronounced. Russian, non-corrosive, Verdam primed, steel cased. Now, a lot of steel cased ammo you cannot shoot at an indoor range because it is steel core. So steel core ammo is going to fuck up their barrier in an indoor range a lot more. And you shouldn't really shoot steel with it because it's going to fuck that steel up a lot more. So depending on your application, I would go with Federal aluminum from the Walmart, which they always have Federal aluminum or Blazer aluminum. Federal aluminum can be found at Walmart. Blazer can be found at most gun shops. But I love Blazer and the Federal aluminum. It's awesome. Never had a problem with them. I don't want to say cheaper variant, but brass is Winchester White Box. Winchester White Box isn't really as cheap as everybody thinks. As far as price goes, it's pretty fucking expensive, and it's pretty shitty ammo. I mean, Jesus. Winchester White Box is probably the worst ammo I've ever shot, and it's brass cased, so everybody thinks it's great. But what I would do is I would buy Winchester White Box. I would pull the bullet, save the powder, and reload it because it fucking sucks. Cases hit me in the face. The gun barely works because it's so weak. So the power factor on Winchester White Box is garbage. So stay away from that. Gladly go with Blazer aluminum or any other aluminum ammo for a cheaper price. Tool ammo with a handgun I've never had a problem with. Tool ammo with a rifle I get stuck cases. So maybe it was a bad lot, but for a 223, 5.56 tool ammo is cheap and it'll work, but make sure that you run it through your rifle like a bunch, and make sure you have a hard cleaning rod from like the MS Clean Kit. That way if you get a stuck casing you can pop it out of there, because I've gotten many a stuck casing with tool ammo. And it could just be my rifle, whatever. Now, ammo, I did buy a lot of aluminum Blazer and a lot of tool ammo, or more aluminum Blazer, like bazillions of rounds of it, and shot it with no problem. Now, what I'm doing now is I am buying from Freedom Munitions. They are a brass cased company, or a reload, let me rephrase it, a reloading company that reloads brass cases, obviously. And I'm getting 40 cal for 11 or 12 bucks a box of 50. You can get 1,000 rounds for like $230. You get 500 rounds for 118, and it's brass. And they use the extreme bullets that are super shiny, and it's got a good power factor. It's pretty powerful stuff. So your best bet now, after discovering Freedom Munitions, is buying bulk from Freedom Munitions, because you will not have a problem. At least I've never had a problem. And it's brass, so if you reload you can save that brass. And they also have a brass exchange program that can save you money on your next purchase. So as far as brass casing goes, go with Freedom Munitions. Minutemen Munitions is, I don't want to bash them, but they're overpriced. Their shit is fucking expensive, and I can get stuff at the store down the road that's expensive. I can get it cheaper than Minuteman. So it's basically the same load. I just priced out Minuteman. There's a bunch of hype and they're way too much money, and I won't buy from. Buy from Freedom Munitions. This awesome company, awesome people, awesome ammo, and really shiny bullets, which I kind of like. That's really all I have on ammo. You know, as far, well, besides the 20 gauge is cheaper and more prevalent than 12 gauge, which I'll say again. And just remember the 5.56 and 223 thing I talked about. Other things involving self-defense on a budget would be knives. A lot of people have knives, and knives are a good self-defense tool. Disclaimer, check your state and local knife laws. I am not responsible for anything involved in that. That is up to you. But there are some cheap alternatives. Now, a lot of people think that you have to spend a bunch of money on a knife for it to be reliable. Well, I'll tell you that if I wanted a overpriced, unusable knife, like a quartermaster, I would just buy a samurai sword and carry that. Quartermaster, don't like them. And I'm going to say it on camera because they blocked me on Instagram. Because they made a shitty comment on one of my friend's photos, and we all kind of chimed in, and he blocked me. So, fuck Quartermaster. I will never buy one of their knives, and I think they're overpriced, unusable knives. So, enough of that. What I carry is cheap, inexpensive knives. Kershaw with the wave opening feature. This knife I got on Amazon for 30 doll hairs, and it's got that wave which hooks into your pocket and opens. Now, this is not spring assisted, this is not a switchblade, it's not a ballast saw, but this hook clips onto your pocket and pulls the knife open. Make sure that if you're using a knife for self-defense, you might want to go with this Emerson wave feature, because it is not spring-loaded, and in court it cannot be brought up as a switchblade. And some laws are designed to where a spring-loaded knife could be a switchblade. So I like the Kershaw with the Emerson wave feature. I love it. I carry it every day. And it's about 30 bucks. So my view is if you're going to carry a knife, buy a cheap knife. Buy a Kershaw. Buy a Bird. Bird is the Spyderco variant that's made in China. Spydercos I think are overpriced, but they're kind of like collector's pieces. So Spyderco's $200-something, and a Bird is $30. And it's the same design, the same look, the same feel, but it's just made in China and it's cheaper. So how many times have you been in an airport and you've had to throw your knife away because you forgot it was on you? If you're carrying a $200 knife, you're going to be devastated. But if you're carrying a $30 knife, keep it. Fuck it. I'll buy another one. Who cares, right? So that's kind of why I like cheap knives, because they fall out of pockets, you lose them, or get them taken, or your friends steal them. So cheap knives are, in my opinion, the way to go. Other cheap knives, this here is a Kershaw. I'm not really going to do too much close-up, but this is a spring-assisted knife. This is sharp as hell, small, easy to put in your pocket, and I mean, 20, 30 bucks, real cheap. This here is a CRKT Ryan. Got this at a gun show. Fucking great knife. It is robust. The blade is awesome. It's sharp. It's shiny. It looks pretty. This was 35 bucks. You can get it on Amazon for 30. This is a Heckler and Koch Benchmade knife. This is a Warncliffe style blade. I actually cut the tip of my finger off with this knife and didn't realize it because it's so sharp. So this is a Benchmade Heckler and Koch knife, Warncliffe style. Amazon for 30 bucks. Another good one that I carry is the Boker Ridgeback, the Boker Koi Ridgeback. It is a fixed blade knife, as long as you can carry it, and with a Miller Tactical Group sheath, horizontal sheath, and that knife's about 55 bucks. Doesn't hold an edge very well, but it is a good utility knife, so I use it for everything. Another thing about knives, you buy a cheap knife, one thing that you can do is wax your blade. Go to the Pathfinder school and buy some of his wax. I can't remember the exact name, but it's kind of like a beeswax cake type blend. You buy that. I melted it down, put it in a chapstick container, and I just chapstick it out and put it on my blades. And that is going to keep them from rusting. It's going to keep them out of the elements, and it's going to keep them shinier and just in better quality over time, especially if you're carrying it in your pocket, you know, etc. So wax your blades, even if you just take this fancy stuff here, Blistex or chapstick, which is a wax-based product. This is medicated, but chapstick, really cheap. You can just rub that all over your blades or all over your metal tools, and anything is metal that you want to protect, chapstick. For cheap, go with chapstick, or buy like the wax. Starts with an F. I can't remember what it's called though, but that's an option also. Real quick on gear. Now, if you only will buy American-made stuff, then a lot of things that I mentioned are out. So if you want cheap, most of it is not going to be American-made because we make better quality stuff here in the U.S. China makes worse quality, but it's cheaper. Now, there's a few brands of gear that I'm going to talk about real quick because this video is going long. Condor. A lot of people bash Condor, say it's garbage. Well, guess what? Condor is actually pretty good. They have a great warranty, I believe, and they have great customer service. So for the price, Condor, I mean, it's cheap, and they will respond to you if you have a problem, and they will fix it, I'm sure. At least I hear. I've never had a problem with Condor gear. Another one that I really like, and that's starting to grow on me, is this. This is called Drago gear. This is the Drago gear tracker. I have 2 of their bags, and just feeling it, I can feel how it's good quality. Now the Drago gear, it is made in China, so like I said, if you want cheap gear, you're going to have to go with China-made stuff like Condor or Drago gear. I would kind of lean more towards Drago gear because I have more experience with it, and it doesn't have the bad oversight that Condor has. But Condor, I have a Condor med kit. I have, you know, so Condor is good for the price, and if you're on a budget, you need good price. So that bag there, that Drago bag, was 40 bucks. Condor bags are equivalent, so there's that. Another one is Red Rock Outdoors. This is my EDC bag. This is a Red Rock Outdoors sling pack, just one shoulder sling. And I have my HSGI blowout kit on it. But Red Rock Outdoors is amazing quality. I mean, that bag I've put through hell, and I've put a lot of stuff in it, and I have no tears whatsoever. So Red Rock Outdoors is probably one of the top ones. Drago gear, second. Condor, third. So that's my top 3. Red Rock Outdoors, Drago Gear, and Condor. I did have a Hazard 4 evac Plan B bag. I had it for 3 days and it tore. So stay away from Hazard 4, it's garbage. That's really all I have. I'm not going to talk about holsters and belts because you're going to have to spend more money to get a good worth out of those. So I'm not going to talk about those. But that's really all I have. I'm wearing my Grunt Style 2A shirt, rocking my sexy beard, my new haircut. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down here in the cock box. And if you have any suggestions for a video or ideas for a video, please tell me. That way I can make a video and I do not run out of ideas eventually. So like I said, this video was based off of a comment that I had, so I decided to make it. I know it's a long video, but just watch all of it and hit like. So that's really all I have. Until then, just leave me your comments and ideas, and I will see if I can make that video as long as I have the gear. So keep shooting, guys.